I'm Andrew, and I'm setting out to make better videos for diesel enthusiasts. Follow along as I review products, do how-tos, and share my personal trucks here on Just Diesels. What's up guys, we are back with another update video, and today we're going to be talking about my 3rd gen. Now I've been doing my best to document every stage of this build as I can, and so in this stage we're going to be talking about power. Now my goals for this truck was to make around 400 to 500 horsepower reliably, and so today I'm going to be giving you my recipe for how that's done. There's a lot of people online that have their opinions on how this should be done, what's needed, what's not. I think a lot of people cut corners, so today I'm going to be running you through what it's like to actually drive this truck, the tuning that I put on it, and all the supporting mods that were there to make it happen. Now if you subscribe to my channel, you have seen the video that I did on the NRE Performance tuning that is on this truck when I first put it on. That was before any of the supporting mods were on, and that was actually a version 1 of the tuning. Today, I'm gonna show you guys what it's like to actually drive this truck with the version 2 tuning. That is the all-out tune, now that I have all the supporting mods to actually put this power to the ground. Nick and I have kind of fine-tuned things. It is a really, really solid tune. And I'm gonna bring my friend along who has no experience with this. I was trying to figure out how to show you guys what it's like to drive this truck, and I thought someone's candid reaction who's never been in this tuned truck before is probably gonna be the best way to do it. So he's ridden this truck a lot stock, but never tuned. So these are his legitimate candid reactions to going and driving this truck. So I'm just coming back from a ride with buddy Marshall here. He's gonna be riding along with me, and he has never been in this truck since it's been tuned. He has one of these trucks himself. He's driven a ton of these trucks, so he knows what they should feel like. So this should be kind of fun to get his interpretation of how this truck feels after the tune. So right now we're just cruising down the freeway. I'm in tune 1, which is basically the stock tune. So it's a slightly relaxed parameter stock tune. It's just gonna have a little more oomph than stock, but not quite. So here's an example. I'm going 61 right now. I'm in 5th gear at 2,000 RPM, and I'm on pretty much flat ground. So if I punch it and floor it, 62, 65, 66, 69, 70. So yeah, it's slow.
That's a little slow.
Yeah.
Okay, my truck's faster than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he has a 2012 6.7 truck. So yeah, 5.9 versus 6.7, his blows the doors off mine. As you probably know.
Can be that strong.
No, as you probably know, if you have one of these 5.9 trucks, especially the manual stock, they're a little on the slow side. So that was tune 1, that's stock. So we'll go to tune 2. So tune 2 is supposed to be the towing tune. This one is basically gonna have a little bit more oomph than stock. What's interesting about this one is it kind of backs it off. So on this tune, the truck will not go over about 1,000, 1,100 degree EGT. So this one's nothing magical in terms of power output, but it's a great tune if you're gonna be towing super heavy and you just don't wanna look at everything. Like I don't wanna be watching my gauges and staring at them the whole time. That's what tune 2 is for, where you basically get a little more power and you just don't have to worry about burning the truck up. So kind of boring, we'll skip that one. So we'll do tune 3 now. So this is the 12 valve tune. This is the tune that gets rid of the initial pilot injection event. So it makes the idle a lot rougher, a lot clatterier. So if I roll down the window,
Sounds like an older truck.
yeah, it sounds exactly like a 24 valve 2nd gen. So
That's crazy.
this tune's gonna have a little more power than stock. It's fun. It's really more about the sound than anything else. Supposedly it gets better mileage because of that initial pilot injection vent being on. All the tunes get better mileage than stock, so I haven't really noticed one being a standout from the other one. But this one's super fun just to kind of make some clattery noises. I don't know. You probably, how does that sound?
Yeah, it sounds just like an old truck. It's crazy. It
Yeah.
sounds like mine first, and then it sounds like an old one.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. So I'll give you a pull in this tune really quick.
Yeah, you can hear the difference for sure.
Oh, immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
sounds like a 12 valve.
yeah, way more power than stock, but has that kind of classic clattery 24 valve sound. So I'm gonna roll down the window and change to tune 4 and you'll hear it immediately. So this is tune 3, and that's tune 4.
You can hear it right away.
Yeah, totally like smooths
That's
out
great.
the clatteriness of the idle. All right, so the next tune is gonna be tune 4. There's 5 total. So tune 4 is gonna be the second most aggressive tune. And this tune, in this truck, especially with the manual, I think is really best noticed on grade, where you can actually build some boost pressure. So like either towing or going up a hill. So right now we're coming back from a ride, and the reason why I did this video on this ride is because we're gonna be going up a pretty steep road here. So we'll have a good chance to build some boost on the truck and actually like get into the tune. So this is tune 4. So right now we're gonna start in 5th, 1,800 RPM at 52 and step on it. And you'll feel like right around 2K RPM is where it just fully builds into the boost.
God.
So we're going 70 up that hill immediately, and
my God.
yeah, you feel like it built into the boost.
Same. It like doesn't feel that bad, and then you look outside and you're like, holy shit, we're going fast.
And EGTs, we only hit 1200, and that was like a good wide open throttle pull.
This is Tune 4.
Yeah, this is Tune 4 up a pretty solid grade, so not too bad. All right, so next up is Tune 5. This is the big tune. So this one is an absolute riot to drive. I literally cannot believe you can squeeze this much power out of a truck with basically stock fueling, stock turbo, stock everything else. It's nuts.
It can't be that much more than the other one.
It's gnarly. So we're gonna go at this hill here. This is a solid grade that we're going up right now. Right now it's flat, but we're about to go into it. So I'm gonna put the truck at kind of 5th gear. Actually, we'll go 4th to start. So we'll start at 4th, 2,000 RPM. 3,000 RPM. And now we're in a 5th. So we're going 60, 63.
Oh my God. What the hell? No!
So gnarly.
This is insane.
So
God damn.
we were just going 80 miles an hour
Can
up
I
a
do this
hill.
on my truck?
Yeah, I think you could.
Okay.
Yeah, we were just going 80 miles an hour up a hill without full throttle. That was not full throttle. If I did that in full throttle on stock tune, we would still be back there.
Holy shit.
It's so gnarly. So it's the hardest thing ever to capture,
Insane.
like what these tunes do to a truck. So that's why I thought I would bring him along as like a candid. He's never ridden this,
This is really gnarly.
but it's gnarly. And the coolest thing is I only hit 1400 degree EGTs for like a flash second there at the very end. So like these tunes still run totally fine on this truck. They're not pushing anything to the absolute limit, but
There's so much more power behind this thing. It's insane.
yeah, it's nuts. Like,
Oh my God. It's insane.
and I don't know if you guys can see out the back window, but there's no smoke either, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I have an axle up exhaust, so you would see it right out the back window, and there's nothing, even though I'm literally flooring it up a hill. So pretty wild.
So gnarly.
So hopefully that shows you guys
Oh my God. It's insane.
what this thing is capable of.
You're just like instantly in your seat.
Now there are a lot of ways to make big power on these trucks, but like most people on Facebook say, the key is going to be tuning. So for this truck, I opted to go with EFI Live custom tuning from Nick at NRE Performance. I think that that is probably the best platform you can get for the 06 to 07 trucks. Now, if you have an 03 to 05 common rail truck and you were looking to do tuning, you're going to be looking at HP tuners, but again, it's still going to be custom tuning to make these power levels. There's a lot of box tuners out of there, Smarty, Edge, etc., etc. I just don't think that they have the flexibility and the customizability that you get out of these custom tuning platforms. And so you're just gonna get better results from one of these custom tuning platforms. Now, of course, tuning is only part of the puzzle. As I kind of hinted at earlier, there's a lot more stuff that needs to go on in terms of supporting modifications to actually make this power reliably. That's gonna be key. If you go on Facebook, everyone's like, oh, all you need for 500 horsepower is a tune. But realistically, you're not gonna make that 500 horsepower for very long if you just slap a tune on one of these common rail Cummins trucks. So to handle supporting mods, I took my truck down to Russ at Maximum Diesels in Hemet, California. He's the only guy I trust to really work on the engines and transmissions on my trucks if I don't have time. So he handled all this work, but I'm gonna dive into what is needed to make this happen. So in terms of supporting mods, the single most important modification that you can do is probably transmission work. Kind of a toss-up between head studs and transmission, but I think I'm gonna put transmission at number 1 because it's just so important to the actual forward movement of your truck. If you try and slap 400 to 500 horsepower on one of these trucks, your transmission is not going to take it very long, whether it is a automatic or a manual. So unfortunately, if you were looking to make this power, you do need to budget that into your build. If you have a manual, you are only going to be needing to do a clutch. That's what I did in my truck. We'll get into that in a second. If you have an automatic transmission, you will need to do at least a valve body, ideally a bunch of other upgrades internally in the transmission to kind of support this power reliably. Honestly, if you're looking to make this power reliably and automatic, you're probably looking at somewhere between $3,000 to $7,000 in terms of a bill, depending on how crazy you want to go with the transmission and how much they charge for labor. This is going to be just like what I did with Tier 1 on my 2nd gen build. That's a stage 2 trans rated for right around this level of power, but that's kind of what you're looking at, unfortunately, in terms of price tag for this kind of power level. If you have a manual, all you need to do is a clutch. Now, granted, if you're going to be towing super heavy, you're going to be flogging the truck, you might want to do some more supporting mods than that. But in my case, all I did was a clutch in my truck, and I've been very happy with it. Now, you will need a dual disc clutch for this level of power. So I opted for the Valair dual disc organic. It's their quiet version of that clutch, and I've been really happy with it. It puts power down way better than the stock clutch. And I really like the way that the organic clutch engages. It just feels a lot more natural. I'm gonna do a standalone video on this one just by itself because I think it's just an awesome topic on its own. But yeah, so far I've been really happy with that. It's actually pretty quiet for a dual disc as well. So again, hold on for the standalone video on that one, puts more miles on it, but been very happy with that so far. Now, the next thing the team at Maximum Diesels tackled after doing the trans and a rear main seal was doing head studs, valve springs, and push rods. Now, you don't need to do all three of those things, but I do think that if you're gonna do this right, that's the way to go. Head studs would be your minimum. Now, the reason why we're doing these supporting modifications is because to make this power level, what's happening actually internally in the engine is you're increasing in-cylinder pressures. You're upping boost pressure and you're upping timing. And so that's gonna increase the actual pressure in the cylinder each time it goes boom. And so when you do that, you're actually gonna be putting more stress on the factory head studs. You're more likely to blow a head gasket, and you're more likely to float a valve. So to fight that, I went with ARP 625 head studs, Hamilton push rods, and Hamilton 103-pound valve springs. Those three things are gonna work together to basically keep the head on the block and also keep those valves from floating under heavy cylinder pressure and under higher RPM. Again, this is assuming that you're gonna be making this power at higher than traditional stock driving RPM. So 2,000 to 3,500 RPM, you're kind of in that range where you're risking floating the valves on a factory valve train. So this is where these 103-pound valve springs come in, and the supporting mods of the push rods and the head studs are also key. If you skip on these, you'll eventually absolutely blow a head gasket if you skip the head studs. So these are really, really important factors as well if you're trying to make this level of power on a common rail truck, regardless if it's 03 to 07, any 5.9 truck you're making this power level on, these are really important modifications. Now, the fifth supporting modification is something I actually just did a video on, and that is a lift pump of some sort. Now, I opted for a Fass 165. If you choose to not do a lift pump and you're making this level of power on the truck, what's gonna happen is the CP3 is actually drawing enough fuel that it will overwhelm the factory's lift pump's capability. So on this truck, when I was running the higher 4 and 5 level tunes, I was able to drop fuel pressure down to about 2 PSI or less when I was at full throttle. That ain't gonna cut it for the injection pump. So with the Fass 165 on there, I'm able to see full fuel pressure, full fuel flow, regardless of throttle input on the truck. And that way I don't see crumbling rail pressure. I'm not putting extra stress on the CP3 injection pump. I'm actually getting proper fuel flow to the truck, regardless of throttle input. I think this is an extremely underrated modification on this truck. Again, I have a whole video dedicated to how important these are on 3rd gen trucks, but I do think that if you're making this level of power, this is gonna be a very important thing to add to the truck. Now, there's one other thing that I added while Russ was in there working on this truck that I think is also kind of a key thing. It doesn't necessarily have to do with making power, but if you have the transmission out, if you are doing head work, I think it's actually a really good modification, and that is a coolant bypass. Now, I chose to go with the Fleece coolant bypass. There's a bunch of different brands that make them, but what's happening with the coolant bypass is you're optimizing coolant flow in the block. So traditionally, coolant flows from cylinder 1, then to 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So by the time it gets to 6, it's been heated up by 1 through 5. And so this is why you see so commonly that when there are engine failures on common rail trucks, it's typically on cylinder 5 and 6. They're running the hottest. With this coolant bypass in place, you're seeing even coolant flow and even coolant temperature all the way through the cylinder head of the truck. This is going to be key to preserving this truck, preserving this engine in the long run. This is really important if you're towing heavy and towing regularly, but in my 2 cents, it's one of those things where it was just kind of an oversight in the build of this engine. So if you have the transmission out, it's really easy to install one of these. It cuts down a lot in labor time. So if you're pulling the transmission, if you're doing a built trans, or if you're doing head work, you may as well just throw one of these on there. It's not that expensive, and it's a well worth it upgrade for these trucks. So to recap, can you make 400 to 500 horsepower on a tune alone? Absolutely. Will you make it reliably? Absolutely not. So what do you need to make that actually reliable? A transmission, head studs, valve springs, push rods, and some sort of lift pump on the truck. Unfortunately, that is not the list that you were probably hoping for. It's going to be more expensive than expected for a lot of people, but realistically, honestly, that is what it takes to actually make this level of power reliably. All right, guys, so there you have it. That is my recipe on how to make 500 horsepower in a 3rd gen common rail Cummins truck. Obviously, there are cheaper ways to do this if you want to cut some corners, but this is the way to do it right. This is the way to keep your truck reliable, and this is the way to make sure that you don't have any problems down the line. As always, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment them down below. I'll be happy to answer, and I will catch you guys on the next video.